Mike Emanuel, thank you so much. Joining us now, Dr. Marty Makary, professor of public health, Johns Hopkins University. So you heard that what happened at the hearing today. Doctor, what do you make of this watchdog group Open the Book saying drug makers paid NIH and its scientists $710 million in royalties during the pandemic? Almost all of that cash, $690 million, went to scientists in Dr. Fauci's unit. He's saying he didn't make money since 2021. Do we know how much money he made before 2021?
He didn't disclose that, and if he made no money from pharma since the beginning of COVID, he didn't really tell anyone until now. He'd been asked many times before, and he said that they have an internal disclosure process and that was sufficient. He didn't have to disclose to the public. So this would be a new revelation, and it is curious because his agency profited a lot.
You know, Dr. Fauci defended shutting down the U.S., including schools, but he previously admitted in testimony in January there's no scientific backing for shutdowns and mask mandates. It was made up, it was ad hoc and on the fly. Those shutdowns set back the U.S. economy, they set back school children, plus ignited changes in voting rules that undercut the integrity of U.S. elections.
Well, what you heard today during the hearing was he tried to create a lot of distance between himself and the CDC. He tried to create a lot of distance between himself and his right-hand man of 26 years, Dr. David Morins, who had said, hey, I found out a way how to delete emails after the FOIA request, so we're safe. And he was the primary correspondent between those virologists who told Fauci they thought it came from the lab before they published an article saying that it didn't.
Got it. Let's get your reaction to this. Watch.
Americans were aggressively bullied, shamed, and silenced for merely questioning or debating issues such as social distancing, masks, vaccines, or the origins of COVID. You took the position that you presented the science. Your words came across to so many people as final and as infallible in matters pertaining to the pandemic. You were the highest paid person in the government. This makes you more accountable to the people, not less. Does it concern you if U.S. taxpayer dollars are funding someone like this?
Grants that are submitted to the NIAID go through a very extensive...
Does it concern you? I'm not talking about the process
I don't know
Does it
anything
concern you that that U.S. taxpayer dollars would be going to someone who's a high-ranking Chinese PLA official? Yes or no?
He wouldn't answer. He said, I'm going to have to go back. So that's the issue. His legacy is now in danger. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, doctor, says, quote, Dr. Fauci, the smartest man on the planet, could not remember things hundreds of times. The NIH finally admitted to funding dangerous Frankenstein gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab. It's ground zero for the pandemic. That's what many say, experts say. This contradicts Dr. Fauci's testimony. The NIH does not now fund gain-of-function research when it did. There's also this, news reports. Look at this. Oxford University researchers found, after studying over 1 million English children aged 5 to 11 and teenagers aged 12 to 15, they found incidents of heart conditions, myocarditis, pericarditis, appeared after the COVID vaccine and not after infection. That's a bombshell. Dr. Fauci was big on pushing the vaccines. He later, in a study co-authored, said we're not effective.
Well, look, Dr. Fauci was a very soft and kind gentleman today, Dr. Fauci, but in reality, he was leading a massive cover-up around the COVID origins, and him and Dr. Collins were busy crushing dissent on all of us who basically called for schools to be open, not to have prolonged closures, to recognize natural immunity, to hold off on vaccine mandates around vaccine boosters, and so many other issues. So you saw a very soft and kind Dr. Fauci today before the hearing committee, but in reality, he is still believing that this did not come from the Wuhan lab, even though there was a massive scramble to try to put out that it was a natural origin right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Dr. Makary, thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to have you on.
Thanks.